Hey, Seattle hockey fans. Welcome to a live edition of Locked on Kraken. It's postseason for Major League Baseball. It's the close of the preseason for the National Hockey League, at least for us, because somewhere in Europe, some teams have already gotten started with the real deal. But we are going to talk about all of it on this pregame episode, our last go-round before the real deal. We're just a week out, and it's going to be a good time. I think we've got plenty to talk about. That's coming up on this episode of Locked on Kraken.
You are Locked on Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked on Kraken. I'm your host, Erica L. Ayala. This episode of Locked on Kraken brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. A little bit of a different look for the episode today. I was a little bit under the weather. Seasonal allergies got me down, so took some rest. Also, I believe I said we were playing Vancouver tonight. We're playing Edmonton. So, blame my head, not my heart. Either way, we have preseason hockey. And Dave Hakstol and Shane Wright spoke to media today. We heard a little bit from Shane Wright. He did not talk about baseball. I was kind of hoping that he did, but the Seattle Kraken as a team showed up in their Mariners gear for today. I talked a little bit, I guess it was on yesterday's show. I wondered if Shane Wright was going to have a little bit of a house divided. He's playing, of course, for the Seattle Kraken, but says he was a Toronto fan growing up. It seems like it's all things Seattle for him these days. Let's take a look at him and the boys walking up in their Mariners gear. This is coming from the Seattle Kraken social media account. Looking good in the blue. Matty Beniers wore that suit on the road before. Look at that Seattle Mariners gear right there. Shane Wright, there he is. Good looking suit there. So the boys are ready. And then also you see that, it's all things good luck Mariners. They started off today with a win. It's a Wildcard 3-game series. And so the Mariners are already up 1 game on the Toronto Bluejays. But, I want to take you over to Shane Wright just for a little bit. And you can hear what he had to say after the skate that they had this morning. This is Shane Wright talking a little bit about his experience, the Seattle Kraken, a bit about where he's which was really funny. He's just taking it all in stride. So let me get you over there. Toggling live is a lot different when I have a little bit of a reprieve. But let me get you over there to Shane Wright. Again, this is him talking. After pregame skate today.
You've had a little more time to acclimate now this preseason. What's it been like going through these last couple of games compared to your first?
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. Definitely learning lots. I think that every game definitely learn lots more about the league and how to be a competitive player in here and the ins and outs of the league, and also understand my teammates as well, building that chemistry up and I feel more confident in myself, my abilities here, and really happy with where I'm at right now. Hopefully I can keep going here tonight.
Is there anything about it that surprised you at all?
I don't know. I think just overall, I think it's just been an unreal experience. It's just been a lot of fun for me. Obviously, being able to play here and playing NHL games is something that I've looked forward to and dreamed my whole life. So I think just being here and having this opportunity is pretty special for me. And hopefully I can just kind of take one game at a time, not get too ahead of myself, and just enjoy every second of it as well.
That's Shane Wright. Again, if you want to listen to more of that, you can head over to our YouTube page where we have the full availability. But Shane Wright's just saying he's taking it one day at a time. Dave Hakstol also spoke to media earlier today, talked about that we're going to see a roster tonight that will be similar to what he's looking to roll out for that opener on the road. But there's still some pieces that he's looking to still figure out. He mentioned particularly, that left wing position Dave Hakstol did, talking about where Yanni Gourde is going to play. Talked about players like Jaden Schwartz, and he, of course, talked about Shane Wright with respect to him getting more comfortable defensively. He was asked a question. Someone said, I'm just assuming that Shane Wright's going to be with the team. He said, no assumptions. We're not doing any of that. Of course, we spoke yesterday on yesterday's show, Ron Francis speaking to The Athletic, Pierre LeBrun, that he also doesn't want to say anything guaranteed, but he does expect Shane Wright to be with the Seattle Kraken and would imagine, I'm paraphrasing here, but check out yesterday's episode. I'll leave the link in the show notes once we finish this live episode, but, said that he would expect that Shane Wright would be with the team. If he's going to be with the team, he's going to be with the team for the season. So that's going to be interesting. But I mentioned that we are taking on one of our Pacific Division rivals. We're going to talk about this game against Edmonton. We should be, again, looking at a roster that is similar to what we'll see early on for this Seattle Kraken squad. No guarantees for anyone as to what that will absolutely look like, but here's what they have for us over at NHL.com. So if we take a look at this here, we first of all, this is maybe not the best one to pull up because they have Chris Driedger up. We know that Chris Driedger will not be in net for the Seattle Kraken, so there's that. But we saw that we were able to take care of Edmonton. That was one of our 3-0 wins earlier in the preseason. I think we did learn some things against Vancouver in that overtime win and against Calgary. I talked about that earlier in the week, but I'm still very curious about defense. I know that I had a little bit of a disagreement with some of you on how Martin Jones was performing, so I'm curious to see what, if any, we see from him. So, I think that overall, the Seattle Kraken still have some things that they have to figure out. Again, I talked about Dave Hakstol mentioning what the forward lines are going to look like. We haven't seen Jonas Donskoy in a little bit. He's dealing with an upper body, little tweak here and there. What we did hear from Dave Hakstol is that tonight is going to be about playing Seattle Kraken players within their role. So he wouldn't commit to minutes as far as, is he going to give more minutes to people who are on the bubble versus not on the bubble. He didn't commit to that and didn't want us essentially to read too much into the tea leaves regarding that. But I think what we do know is that Dave Hakstol is looking for the different positions and the role playing that he has at his disposal with the team that he will want to put on the ice. But there will be no decisions. Obviously, we haven't gotten those final cuts, but at about 28, got to get to 23, I believe it is. So there's some moves that have to be made. Those will be coming up after this preseason game, because then it's all live, baby. We start with the real deal, puck dropping on the regular season officially next week for the Seattle Kraken. So coming up next on Locked on Kraken, I said we were going to have a conversation about defense. I want to talk about that a little bit. Again, I'm not at my best, but I want to give you a primer. We're going to go over to a graphic over at The Athletic that's going to help us just kind of put some things into context. And then, of course, I've got my baseball gear ready. My personal favorite baseball team is going to play in the wild card in the National League, probably right around now, actually. And of course, we'll talk about how the Mariners did and what the rest of the wild card series looks like for them. That's coming up on Locked on Kraken. Now let me tell you about Bet Online. We talk about it all the time. Bet Online is your number one source for football betting and info this season. Of course, not just football. It's got NHL stuff as well. And I'll take you over to some of those odds and how we've ranked things over at Locked on NHL. As always, Bet Online remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, NHL, boxing, and even golf, is to head over to betonline.net. You can use your mobile device, laptop, desktop, tablet, whatever you got. Bet Online is where the game starts. All right, this is a live edition of Locked on Kraken. We are doing a little pregame before the official pregame, before our official last preseason game. I know it was a lot of there's a lot going on with Seattle. Again, we are taking on Edmonton. Super excited. I love this. And thank you for those who are tuning in. Thank you so much. I love that you're loving the show. Please keep John Hayden. I like John. We talked about John, I guess, maybe 2 days ago, earlier this week. Is he one of those bubble players? Absolutely. I know over on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you as always. And eventually this will be up on audio. But, is he a player that we need? Is he a player that has shown enough? Will tonight be an opportunity for him to show a little bit more? Again, we have a Geezer Gamer. I love that. Great show! ! Thank you very much. Let's please keep John Hayden. I like John. I liked learning about his background. We talked about that. It wasn't officially one of our good reads, but we talked about that earlier in the week. And it was the Seattle Times that did a little bit of a write-up there. I think there's room for a John Hayden on this roster. So we have to see. We have to see how it plays out. But as promised, I wanted to talk about defense. And y'all know, if you listen to the show, I've got a thing for defense. I've got a thing for defense. It's just so important in the game. I think it's underrated. And I know we're going to talk about the Mariners in the next segment, but one of the things I absolutely love about the Mariners is that they are a defense first team, and they get to the playoffs. They get to the postseason for the first time in 21 years by focusing on, I'm putting my hand to my ear for those listening on audio. They do it by focusing on defense, by being all in on defense. I have not seen that from the Seattle Kraken yet. You see, I've got my Seattle Kraken Black History Month edition hat on. I haven't seen that from the Seattle Kraken, and it makes me a little bit nervous because we don't have great defense. Speaking of great defense, and speaking of course, we talked about Bet Online. Here's what we have, including the Bet Online odds for Norris Trophy. I spoke about this yesterday. One of the good reads that I talked about was that great article breaking down this puck-moving defenseman style. Cale Makar's right there at the top of the list. And that was mentioned in that ESPN article by the one and only Ryan S. Clark. But on the screen, for those watching on YouTube, you see NHL defenseman power rankings as voted on by the Locked On NHL hosts. Odds to win the Norris Trophy, which is, of course, the top defenseman top defenseman award, And then it also has the bet online odds. These are future bets, of course. At number 1, are we surprised? Cale Makar from the Avalanche, plus 150. Victor Hedman from the Lightning, plus 800. Adam Fox from the Rangers, plus 900. Roman Josi, who was mentioned in that article, Locked on Predators, I know felt some kind of way that Josi didn't win it, plus 750 for this season. Then we have Heiskanen, McAvoy, Hughes, Quinn Hughes, Ekblad, Aaron Ekblad from the Panthers, Cedar from the Red Wings, and Morgan Riley from the Leafs, rounding out the top 10. Now, these are what we are saying. Excuse me. These are what at least my colleagues and I agree are the top defensemen in the NHL. When I was asked to put forth a top defenseman who could even be in the Norris Trophy conversation, it was difficult. It was difficult to figure out who on the Seattle Kraken can realistically be in the running. The truth of the matter is, I don't think we have one of those players right now. I really just don't think we have one. And I think that's a problem. I really think that's a problem. I think it's going to become a problem. I think it's going to continue to be a problem until the Seattle Kraken really buckle down and focus on defense. I want to take you to something else here. We're going to go to another tab. And just think about how are we even ranking? What are some of the things that it takes to be a top defenseman? And so I mentioned The Athletic. We're going to talk about them too. But this comes from what is this? QuantHockey, excuse me. Overall NHL stats, and it's ranking defensemen. Again, Roman Josi, Cale Makar, Victor Hedman, Adam Fox, Christopher Letang, Riley's there again, Hughes, Ekblad, McAvoy comes in at 11 for QuantHockey. The first player that's even mentioned from the Seattle Kraken, you have to scroll all the way down, and this is Vince Dunn is mentioned. And Vince Dunn is mentioned. This is ranked by points here. If we go by plus minus, that's a whole nother story, and it's actually Will Borgen who had the best plus minus for the Seattle Kraken defenseman last season at 1. Now, plus minus. That's an interesting stat. It's no defensive stat is perfect. If you listen to the show before, you know that I believe that. We've talked to Alison Lukan the first time she was on the show. We talked about that. There is a huge problem with that stat. But then also the Seattle Kraken were not great last year. So that's going to be a problem for us regarding that stat because, we just weren't any good. So no one had a great plus minus. Dunn had the most points last season and he had the most shots. So I think for a lot of people, if you're going to pull a stat that's kind of attainable and you can quantify, Vince Dunn might be our best defenseman. We've also heard a lot of people talking that Vince Dunn, he had a preseason so far in which he was showing that he can be a puck moving defenseman. This kind of new wave young puck moving defenseman that Ryan S. Clark talked about yesterday. So me personally, I think there's a little bit more. I like the Cale Makar style of puck moving defenseman. I think as Cale mentions in that article, I highly recommend it. But as Cale mentions, he doesn't want to be thought of as just like a good offensive defenseman. He sees himself as a full, complete, well-rounded player. And he even went as far in that article to suggest that there should be a different way to classify a player like him, or as Alison has said, like a rover type situation. And he's talking about awards. And that was the question that I had, right? About positionless hockey. When I had that conversation about positionless hockey with Alison Lukan, my concern was, how is this going to impact awards? And if it's impacting awards, how then does it impact the game? Those are all questions to be answered. Anyway, that's my long-winded way of saying that. I guess in some of the measures that we think of that can be quantifiable, Vince Dunn maybe is our best defenseman. But if you go on plus minus, I said Borgen, but I think Alexiak actually had a better plus minus. And Carson Soucy and Larson were up there as well. So I don't know. I honestly don't know who to say is our best defenseman. I'm very curious to see what Justin Schultz will look like defensively. I know that he has some responsibilities on special teams. But if you're looking at how the NHL is ranking defensemen, and then you're looking at the Seattle Kraken defense, there's a lot to be desired. And so now I want to take you again over to The Athletic. We talked about this. Was it this week? I'm not sure, but this is the preview, the team by team preview and breakdown that The Athletic is doing. And I love a good graphic. Who doesn't? I know we talked about this article maybe even before last week because, they were like, shame on us for having this team so high and things like that. So anyway, this is a graphic. It's showing the Seattle Kraken. It has letter grades for overall the team. It has letter grades for the starters, for the pairings, for the forwards, the centers. Like it does a really great job here. And it also has it's using the GSVA stat to kind of rank. And just it also has the GSVA kind of I almost want to say rubric, but that's not what I mean. But anyway, so you go from 0 to 5, 5 being an MVP caliber player, a 0 being a fringe player. The player with the highest ranking per this stat, which actually came from a writer, I'm forgetting the name right now, but who is at The Athletic anyway. And it takes into account a lot of different things. Again, it's not a perfect, especially for defense, it's not perfect. But anyway, the highest ranking for the Seattle Kraken overall, Matty Beniers, 2.1. So that is a top player in the NHL, but less than a star player. Star players come in at about 2.5 given this metric. For those watching on YouTube, you can see the center, that Matty Beniers top center, but also has the best ranking. Excuse me, Burakovsky comes in at a 2, again, top player. So you've got Beniers, Burakovsky coming in at a 2 or better. Bjorkstrand, McCann are 1.5 or better. Eberle is a 1.1. There are no defensemen, according to this statistic, there are no defensemen that come in higher than a 1. And Adam Larson is at a negative 0.6. Vince Dunn, it's Soucy, Dunn, and Alexiak. So the top 3 that I mentioned, Soucy at a 0.9, Dunn and Alexiak at a 0.8, Schultz and Borgen at a 0.7. That doesn't look good to me. I mean, I know these are not perfect. This is all projections and it's some super mathematical science that I can't even fully explain, but it creates something that we can at least have a conversation about. If you're watching on YouTube, I want to take you also over to the top where it's projecting 87.2 points. We're going to have something where I talk about the over under on that. I think this is a little bit high. The percentage to make the playoffs, I'm seeing most places saying about 27%. And our chances to win the Stanley Cup, absolutely 0, according to The Athletic. So, I don't disagree. Thank you. Thank you. I couldn't remember who the writer was. I'm going to absolutely butcher that last name, but Dom is the writer. Thank you so much. It's a statistic that, again, it comprises a lot of different things. So arguably, if we want to know who a complete player is, that stat should help us. I don't think it's a perfect stat for defense, but again, I don't think there really is one. Not plus minus, not shots, there's not a perfect anything for defense. So Can you tell I'm troubled? I am troubled. I am deeply troubled let me come out of this. I'm deeply troubled by what the Seattle Kraken defense is going to look like. And I just don't think that we're focusing on it enough. And I get it. I get it, people. There is this whole philosophy that if you have the puck more, you have possession more, that is its own form of defense. But I've talked about it on the show before. Then what kind of offense is that? If you're just keeping the puck, we were pushing Calgary out, so they were only taking shots from deep. And they beat us. They beat us 4-1 because they, even in minimal possession, which actually I think they had better possession. They definitely had better face-off, which is another thing. If you want possession, you have to be good at the face-off. We were not good at the face-off and in the circle. At the dot against Calgary. So you got to win faceoffs if you want to play this possession style. And we didn't do it. We didn't do it against Calgary, who's a top team in our division. A top team in our division. So what are we talking about here? Possession, meaningless possession without a purpose, as you sometimes hear in soccer or football. It's just, I'm concerned. So I think it's great. I think we will have better offense, and I think that will yield better results offensively, but only to an extent. You still got to be able to play defense. And Martin Jones showed a few holes in his game. Philip Grubauer, still to be determined. We, of course, know how last season went. So I'm a little bit concerned about defense. But we're not going to end with my concerns. We're going to end the show talking about baseball. We're going to talk about baseball in Seattle. We're going to talk about baseball in the postseason and who Dave Hakstol thinks will win the Wildcard series between the Seattle Mariners and where he was formerly before us, Toronto. Of course, he was with the Maple Leafs, but the Blue Jays are playing. We're going to talk about that coming up on Locked on Kraken. This is your live show, Locked on Kraken. Hey, as always, thank you for listening to Locked on Kraken. The audio version of this will go up a little bit after our live pregame. But I talked about defense, talked about stats. You heard a little bit from Shane Wright. I don't know if that's going to come out perfectly live, so apologies if it didn't on the audio. Should be able to fix that if there were any problems, but you can always head over to our YouTube page. We have the full conversation with Shane Wright. He talks about still living in a hotel. He talks about what it's been like being here and getting acclimated, getting adjusted. What are some of the things that he wants to do better and be better at regarding on and off the ice? So that's over on our YouTube page. We are, of course, your 5 days a week podcast covering the Seattle Kraken. We always thank you for tuning into Locked on Kraken. Came to you a little bit later today. You might still hear a little congestion. My allergies hit me bad. They hit me hard today. So came in a little bit later. But baseball. M's in 3. Who's that? Geezer Gamer? That's you? M's in 3? Well, you know what? Dave Hakstol agrees. He said M's in 3. And you know what? They already have secured 1 win. We've been talking about it the last 2 days on the show, that the Mariners have been having a watch party. I saw some of the video and the posts from T-Mobile Park. It looked exciting. It looked hella exciting in Toronto. And you know what else looked really good? Luis Castillo. Ooh, Luis Castillo looked really, really good. Really, really good. Today, it was a 4-0 win for the Mariners. They got it done. They got their runs early too, which you love to see. In baseball, you love to see it. Again, it was a 4-0 final. The Mariners were able to get it done. They gave up no runs, which you absolutely love. And we talked about this, but the Mariners have not had a favorable record in Toronto. They're perfect against the Blue Jays at home, but it was a question on whether they were going to be able to get it done on the road. They did. Let me pull this up for you here. It's the box score from MLB.com. Again, this is the Wildcard Mariners playing the Toronto Blue Jays. Again, they got 3 runs in that first inning, then got another one in the 5th. Julio Rodriguez had a great game. He got hit twice and scored both times, and then he got a single. Julio Rodriguez, young talent. You'll love to see it. For the Blue Jays, they had what's his name? Manoah. Alek Manoah, who, again, a little bit of a rocky start if you're a Blue Jays fan, but he settled in. He settled in after that. But it just was the bats for Toronto. They couldn't get it done. But we'll see. Ooh, hello. That's got like that mirror effect. Sorry if you're watching on YouTube. That was weird. So M's in 3. What that means, this is a new wild card, format. So what this means is that instead of like we've had the play-in games before, and then you get to the division, we're doing it all different. This is a series. It's a proper series. So there are 8 teams, including Los Mets. We're playing the Padres tonight in New York, but they're going to get a 3-game series. So the Mariners will not get to host a postseason game, I should say, until they get to the next level. So they have to take care of it. Is it going to be M's in 3? That's what Dave Hakstol said. He was a little reluctant to give an answer, but he eventually said M's in 3. The Mariners already have the 1 win. They'll play tomorrow, which is Saturday, and Sunday. That's an if necessary game, but everyone seems to think it's M's in 3. So that's where we'll go. Of course, Los Mets. Gotta hold fast, stay true, to borrow a Kraken saying. But we had a difficult run at the latter end, so I'm just hoping we get back to how we played in the beginning of the season. But for the Mariners, I've talked about it, and then we'll close the show here. The whole damn show, like when the Seattle Kraken, they had that video, the whole damn show, and the Mariners have kind of taken on, what is they're saying? It's something about damn this, damn that. Everyone is saying damn these days, but the Mariners, they're saying is, this is just the damn start. I love it. I don't know. Is that like a Seattle thing? I love it. There's so much excitement. The Mariners are not content to just arrive for the wild card. Remember, this is a team that a lot of people counted out early in the season. This is a team that then, after they were being called out for it being over, leading into the All-Star break, they went on a 14-game winning streak, second most in franchise history. Julio Rodriguez had an amazing All-Star campaign. This is an exciting team, and there was a team meeting. I talked about how they're a defense-first team. Love that. But they had a team meeting, and Julio, 21 years old, young guy, is like, listen, we got to get it together. I'm here. I want to experience this. I want us to experience this as a team, so let's get it done. Let's just go out there. Let's just do it. Articles, news stories, all that outside noise be damned. Let's get it done. And now look at where the Mariners are. I love this for them. I've mentioned it before. I've gone to a lot of Mariners games. I absolutely love checking out the Mariners when I can make it to the games. Cal Raleigh got that 2-run homer. Cal Raleigh is also the reason the Mariners officially clinched their spot, I should say, in the postseason. So there's some great storylines. Of course, as a baseball fan, huge baseball fan, baseball my first love. I'm definitely going to keep you posted as long as the Mariners are in, and you might have to bear with me because the Metropolitans are also in it. And I've mentioned it before. I absolutely love that I cover a hockey team and a city that has roots in hockey, and their hockey team, their first hockey team in the National Hockey League, or what we now know as the National Hockey League, the Metropolitans. Oh, baby, let's go. That's going to do it for me. I'm going to drink some more hot tea, and then we got to get you over to the pregame because we've got an amazing broadcast team. They do a great job. And next week, we'll obviously know who the cuts are. Next week, we'll have a little bit more that we can talk about after this preseason game. Again, Dave Hakstol is saying that he's going to put his guys in the positions and scenarios that he's expecting for them to play once we come to the games that count. So I'm going to be keeping a keen eye on what that looks like. Double screen for me, Seattle Kraken and the New York Metropolitans. As always, thank you for listening to Locked on Kraken. We appreciate you if you're on YouTube, if you're listening on audio. Again, if you listen on audio, this is coming likely after tonight's game. Either way, we appreciate you. Enjoy your weekend. I hope it's full with baseball, and it obviously 2 wins for the Mariners and for the Mets. And I will catch you next week. Hold fast. Stay true. Let's go, Kraken. I'll see you on the next show. Thanks so much. Oh, I love this. Before we go team, go buoy, go Kraken. That's right. I love it. I'm going to have to add buoy into my wrap up. I always do the hold fast, stay true, be kind to yourself and to each other. And stop hating on Bowie, because you know what? He's a troll, and he will troll you on social media. I love it. I'll catch you all next week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game. Let's go Kraken.